racing rides, people, and places. With your hosts, Brad Banshaw, Matt DeAndrea, and Aaron Hagar. New media for a new type of motorsport enthusiast.
Everybody at Shift and Stare, welcome to the party, pals.
Am I on the wrong podcast?
You are. You're supposed to be on out in the grapevine fields, whatever they call them, the vineyard.
Brad hasn't had his energy drink today.
The grapevine fields.
Grapevine fields. Come on, you can call them that.
I saw water on that.
Hey, we got a bunch to cover on today's show. Matt is just back from SEMA. He's going to tell us about the SEMA night parties, the goings on. Last week, Matt, while you weren't here, we covered SEMA. I told everybody how Aaron was there, but he was incognito, and he was that guy that when the line to get in first thing in the morning was like 2 miles long, he's the guy who walked around everybody and just snuck in. So, he's the guy to be pissed at. But in addition to Matt telling us about what he saw at SEMA and the parties and like that, we're going to tell you about some of the cars you're going to see go bye-bye in 2025. And we're not going to tell you about all of them because it is a list, brother. And we're going to tell you about a video that Mr. Beast did where he wrecked the Lamborghini. And that
was him? I saw.
Yeah, I want to know what people talking about on this. Also, Moose on the Loose. And then how about those Florida hurricanes we had? They already have 17,000 vehicles sitting on auction lots. And I'm telling you, I saw a video and a photo. It's like they turned everything in. There are motor coaches. There are, acres of Porsches. There are muscle cars. Everything you can imagine. And
I was wondering when this would come up. I've been curious about that.
But it's unusual. A lot of times you see these hurricanes and the people, they kind of show you these, photos of cars, but then the cars don't get turned in because the guys go, well, I want to buy it back. It looks like this time everybody's went, screw it, because these are cars that are on the auction lots already. So, Hey, that's all going to happen today on Shift and Stare because everybody's on the mics today. And, before we go any farther, from our sponsor.
Are you guys going to bet on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight?
Well, I bet on the presidential outcome, and I won big. I just want to say I won big. Big, really big. It was the best. It was the best win ever. So
when I got to Vegas, we stayed at the Cosmo, and there's like this huge video screen between like the Cabo Wabo and like the Walgreens or whatever that's next.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And they had like giant real-time betting Tuesday night right before the election of Trump and Harris, and it was going on. They had a huge video wall of it going. I mean, it was part of the live.
Who did they have the odds on Tuesday night? Early on Tuesday night.
Early on, it looked like it was a lot of Trump, but also keep in mind it is Nevada, and that's a little bit more of a red state, I believe.
Yeah.
Although it's like after flipped. This election, there was quite a few red states.
Yeah, a lot of red states. Most of them are red. What about you asked about Jake Paul and
Mike Tyson.
And Tyson, yeah. Are you going to bet on it?
I didn't bet on it because I don't have any money, but
that always prevents that. Yes.
But I'm curious to watch. I mean,
who do you think's going to win?
This is a tough one. I know Tyson is 60 years old, but the guy's a beast, and he was so dominant, and I don't think he'll have the stamina. But I if I was betting, I think I would bet on Tyson.
I agree. I think all Tyson has to do is lay one good one, and it's done.
That's what I agree. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know. He was so dominant that I don't know how much of a hit he can take. That's the thing. So if Jake Paul lands a bunch of jabs, if he can land them and string this out for a number of rounds, I think he could do it. I think stamina and a lot of hits. But you're right. Don't one good punch, let alone 3 or 4 from Tyson.
Yeah,
it sounds like
brutal.
a good matchup.
I saw him in the 80s, and he can take a punch, man. I mean, that guy's a monster. And
Well, he could take a punch in the 80s.
I know, but he's not one of
while.
these guys that got flabby and now he's come back, and he's always kept himself, really good. The stamina is the big question there. But man, he gets a couple hard ones in, and it's going to make a difference.
I think his biggest advantage is his experience.
Yes. And now Jake Paul's got that reach on him, but Tyson fought some fighters back in the day. Tyson knows how, when it goes back to that experience, is you get in there and work the body and do all that, and Jake may not be ready for that.
Yeah, and look, it'll be interesting.
You know what? They make money either way, win or lose.
Either way, somebody's making money. Not me, but somebody.
I won't be betting. But
what are the odds? Did you see the odds while you're in Vegas?
No, I didn't notice. We were kind of running around. I didn't go to sportsbook. I don't gamble, and I don't really play sportsbook stuff. I go to the shows. I see some music. I mean, SEMA did their industry.
Well, tell us about that. Yeah, Tuesday night you went to the industry show, right?
Yeah. So I they had a couple of bands, and then the headliner was Goo Goo Dolls, which I was interested in seeing.
How'd they sound? I was interested.
Yeah. So right after SEMA, behind SEMA at the country club, there's a golf course there. I went there to the C-Tech battery chargers party and hung out with them and ate some tacos. And then afterward we walked over, and as we were walking over, we got to the South Hall parking lot where the concerts are. And it was perfect timing. They're like, coming up next is Goo Goo Dolls. And it was first of all, they did a great job. They sounded great, but
was it cold out? I heard it was cold.
It was windy that night.
That's what I heard. It was cold and windy. Yeah.
So their singer, Johnny Resnick, had one arm in a sling and the other arm wrapped.
No.
And he's like, I'm supposed to be playing guitar. I haven't not played the guitar in like 30 years. And he was like super awkward. He was like Ricky Bobby. He was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And you see him like try to play a guitar, and he realizes he doesn't have one. And he's like laughing like in the middle of a song because he can't move his arms. And he kept joking about it. He's like, I can't tell you what's happening because it's embarrassing. He goes, so you can go onto my social media and you can just like make up whatever you want. And then it was funny because then fast forward to.
Well, wait, while you're on that, because I have a little inside info on that. What happened was he didn't want to play SEMA, and they had to twist his arm.
Yeah. Well, he joked about, he's like, what you do is you don't mouth off to the wrong guy. So we joked about that. And then totally coincidence, Friday at the SEMA Fest, they had the other bands, and when Cage the Elephant came out, their singer had a boot on his leg and his arm was in a sling. And I was like,
man, not a good week for singers, is it?
I was just like, are these guys, did they fight or something? Like, what happened? It was just so weird that they both were, I don't know. They both,
and there's no context, no reason why.
Context.
So they must have had to twist his arm to come play too. I mean, this is ridiculous.
They both joked about it, except the Cage guy, who was obviously in rougher shape, was like, I've never missed a show in my life. They brought him a chair, and he's like, I don't know if I'm gonna need the chair. He's like, I have a boot on and my arm's fucked up, but they were great. So anyway, Goo Goo Dolls did a great job. They were fantastic. They must have played about 90 minutes headlining that show.
How was the turnout for Tuesday night?
It was good. Not as big as the SEMA Fest one. And the industry night, I'm still confused. There's like, is it public tickets that they sold? Is it not? And some people were there and they're like, I don't know what SEMA is, but I'm here for the
Oh,
concert.
really?
I was like, well,
Okay.
somehow they got in. Somebody bought tickets or something. And then SEMA Fest was good. Still has room to grow. But the audience was bigger. We caught the tail end of Fits and the Tantrums, and then Sublime came out. Look, Sublime's got some good songs. The singer who passed away, his son Jacob was the lead singer. Not really my style of music. They were okay. Their sound was off.
That's bad for a band always.
It was just so heavy on the bass. It was just rattling everything. And it was muddy. It was like old school, like you're listening to hip hop jams with your 6x9s in the deck of your Monte Carlo. And it just goes, and it's just like,
that's not good.
Sounded like that. So it was kind of incomprehensible. And then when Cage the Elephant came out, they were great. And somebody had the sound dialed in a little bit more, I think. And they were better, but it seemed like a pretty decent audience. It was getting a little chilly, but not as bad that night.
That's good. That's good. So let's get to the show. We actually covered all of the some of the feature car unveilings, like all the Ring Brothers and all that kind of stuff. So what did you see product wise that really stuck out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And on CarCast, I sat down with Holly a little bit and with Edelbrock Group. There was a few things like this one I know I've brought up several times, but Roadster Shop debuted a full rolling chassis for the Fox Body Mustang. And it's badass. And
it costs more than the whole Mustang, of course, but
fully equipped, rolling, ready to go, it's like 30 grand, but that's kind of on par with what these chassis are. And they had a really great display where they did sort of this like wireframe like silhouette of the Mustang on one half, and the other half shows the chassis and the various options you can do: pushrod engines, Coyote engines, LS engines. It's cool. I reached out to a friend of mine who's a huge Mustang fan, and he's already making
some guys who are into Mustangs. That's surprising.
Yeah, I do know a few. One thing I brought up to Goldberg was Magnuson is doing a modern twin screw supercharger with the TVS 2650 screws, but done in an old style Roots type blower.
Oh, really? It looks like a 671 or something.
Yeah. It's cool. Really kind of cool in a billet case. That was cool to see. I saw that the turnkey package from Ford Performance. It's called the FR 700 or something. So you can take the 5-liter Ford F-150, and because they don't have a modern day Lightning with like a supercharged, gas engine like back in the day in the 2099 to 2004, it's a turnkey package, graphics package, big Whipple supercharger. I think it's got some suspension bits on it and the whole thing, and it's warranted and it's dealer installed, and you can do it on the one they had, of course, was just like a 2-door regular cab, stripped down version of the truck, just to be the smaller, lighter weight version with, it's something like 700 horsepower when it's done. That was a cool package.
That goes back to the 60s and the 70s, early 70s, when a lot of the performance stuff was dealer installed. You buy the strip down and then have the dealer install, factory manifolds and dual quads and things like that. That's cool.
Yeah, support for the dealer installed stuff was cool. Trying to think what else that was new. I want to say Edelbrock has a new they've been doing supercharger packages for a while, but they have a Victor Victor Jr., Victor Senior. I don't remember which one they're calling it because they've had both of those, but they have a supercharger package now that is a little bit more like for the racing side. So it's a tuner kit. You kind of build upon that kit, which is also very, very cool. I want to say they call it the Victor LSXR supercharger, for the LSX engines. That's a cool piece. By the way, a great display at the Mother's booth with the Troy Trepanier, the Land Speed car,
the Bonneville car. That was
Bonneville car. And it's a celebration of George Poteet.
Right.
And George Poteet is maybe not a name that is widely known, but George Poteet was a client. He built cars with a lot of hot rod builders over the years, and probably is the single best client for the hot rod world. Like, that guy went to several shops, many with Troy Trepanier, and pushed the envelope and wrote very large checks, and that made a lot of those shops famous.
He would have sometimes 4 or 5 cars being built at a time. You know? It's it's super nice guy, and so understated. He'd show up at the shows with like bib overalls, and he just like the guy from down south, and he was the guy down south. He had that drawl, and he was very friendly and very nice, and spent a lot of money.
Another cool car to see that we haven't seen in a while. Speaking of Troy Trepanier and Chip Foose, the Sniper, the Viper powered, the green car from back then.
Yes.
I don't know who owns it. I thought maybe the Peterson owned it and then sold it. Maybe
I know it's sold at auction.
Yeah.
And I don't know who owns it now, but that car was way ahead of its time. Troy put that Viper motor in it, and it was way, way ahead of its time.
Well, it was there, and it was on display, and it looked great. And, there's a couple of dated pieces on it, but overall, a pretty timeless build. It was very cool to see that.
Yeah, it was in the booth of the guys who sell the wipe down stuff. What is it? Can you remember the name of it?
The wipe down stuff?
I might have it.
They're the towels that you use to wipe down your car.
The chamois
absorber. And what's interesting is because it was like the Absorber feature car back when it came out. And Absorber every year at the Street Rod Nationals would always build a display that looked like an old style billboard, with the lattice along the bottom, and they would, whatever car they had there that year, it was like the first booth when you came in, there was a giant billboard of the car, and it was an Absorber ad, and then the car was actually sitting in front of it, and it was always, what car's going to be this year? It was a big deal. So,
yeah,
it's funny if you look at the interior of, I guess it's a '54 Plymouth Belvedere, right? If you look at the interior, it's like, okay, and look at like the shifter,
yeah.
You can do a million things to a car, and they left the stock shifter. Is it a Viper shifter? It just looks like
Viper.
a GM shifter, and then the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Oh man,
so interiors are always been the things that get dated the most, and
man,
the past, maybe 5 to 10 years, seeing what's been the game's been elevated with interiors, with shops like the Ring Brothers, what they've been doing. They've always had kind of the best interiors. Now they work with companies like Gabe's and other companies to pull that off, but pretty cool stuff. So EV had a presence. I can't say that it was still getting a lot of love at SEMA, but more companies are coming up with like hot rod solutions for converting EVs. There were several like electric motors, and I want to say now Tremec and some other companies are doing like computers and solutions for EVs. But one that I thought was interesting was a company had a full, like we talked about the rolling chassis for the Fox Body Mustang that Roadster Shop did. Well, imagine that with an engine. It was basically just the skateboard platform. It was electric. It was a full rolling chassis, suspension, battery pack, electric motors, front and rear, all-wheel drive. And it was just on like a flat rolling skateboard, if you will. And it's modular, so you can kind of change the length and I believe the width. So if you said, hey, I want to do an EV Bronco, they're like, great, what's the wheelbase? What's the track? And
you
then
pull
you
this
just
pin and you squeeze it.
just kind of, I'd say slap it on. It's more complicated than that. But if it's about $100,000 for a full rolling chassis with the electric motors and the batteries. Now I was thinking about that going, well, a Roadster Shop chassis with suspension is about brakes is about $30,000. And depending on
what LS motor you put in it.
Yeah, or if you do a Elephant engine, which is $60,000,
Yeah.
you know, that's a $90,000 package right there, right? So I mean, you know, I think that EV solution needs to come down to probably, you know, in the $70,000 to $75,000 range, but
if you get a free rat rod body, then you just put a rat rod body on a $100,000 chassis and you got a nice car.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's like, you could come up with something that's pretty cool. And the whole process would be far less complex than sourcing electric motors and whatever, like a bunch of Tesla batteries or cutting up a Mustang Mach-E. And because it's like a hot rod crate engine where they've cut out all the systems that integrate with the safety and all the, you know, the dings and the chimes and everything that are in modern day cars.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be a cool, because you could do it with just about anything, and you know, you could have some fun with that. But
definitely, especially if it's modular, you can change up the proportions. Got me thinking.
So they're modular in that they're built to order. So if you say, I want this wheelbase and track width, this is what I'm building, then they can do it. I think once you have it, you'd have difficulty changing it, but it's kind of built to order. But anyway, they said it's about $100,000, I believe.
Pass.
Pretty cool. Honestly, though, a lot of people were that same way. They're like, we're not quite there yet.
It's like, if I'm going to spend $100,000, I'm going to put an LS motor or a Elephant or a, you know, something like that.
It's like that old cartoon where they go, "Yay!"
Yeah.
What was that? Remember?
But
Yay.
we do need development starting now, because someday, that's what you're going to have. So,
hey, Brad, don't try to tell the future with EVs. I'm not interested. Let's talk hybrids.
I'm not a big fan either, but we haven't discussed it, but last week, California, our fantastic governor, just passed that, pushed through. He pushed it through, and they passed that carbon. That's going to become a carbon tax that they're saying could raise by February our gas by another 65 cents a gallon. We're already the highest.
I swear, as much as I love the weather in California,
I know,
like, California hates people in cars. Like, they just want to get you out of your car so badly. And it's
the state that was built around cars, right? That was built around commuting and being mobile. And now they don't want us to anymore.
They hate it so much. And they have terrible public transportation and dangerous public transportation.
Oh, yeah. I was reading about BART lately. It's like, holy shit, man. That's some serious stuff. No thanks.
Yeah.
Bad ideas.
It's kind of a weird situation.
If you want to ride public transportation, you got to look like one of those guys in like a Mad Max film or something. You got to be all outfitted and have a helmet and a gun and, club just to ride.
It's funny because I was cruising around the new products showcase, and one of the new products that I saw, and it's sad that we have to have this, it's called Cat Wrap. And it is a bunch of metal plates and thick wires metal wires that wrap around your exhaust and catalytic converter.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh.
It's $160, and it just looks
Oh.
like a whole bunch of thick metal wires wrapped around your catalytic converter.
It looks like you ran over a barbed wire fence.
We should
Yeah,
just develop the
it looks
porcupine,
it's
and
like
you wrap
wrapped
it around
like
and
their
it
drive
spikes,
shaft.
you know?
Yeah.
We could develop the porcupine that has spikes and they're electrified. And when the guy goes for it, so
Yeah, just shot. Well, you can do that with an EV. You know?
yeah, but they wouldn't have a catalytic converter. So we wouldn't
Yeah.
have to worry about that.
That's the joke, Brad.
Ah. So Matt, what else?
I'm gonna post a big photo gallery of the new products showcase. I'm trying to figure out where, probably on my Facebook page again, on the Motorator Facebook page, but I'll link to it from my social media accounts, and I'll try to make it public. So if you are interested in just clicking through the aisles and aisles of new products, I try to get a photo of each product, or at least the ones I thought were cool, along with their information card that tells you like the name of the company and the name of the product, and in a lot of cases the price. Be kind of a
Cool. Thank you,
interesting
Matt.
thing to see. There's some
That'd be cool. If you put that up, let me know so that we can link it through from Shift and Steer's Instagram page. We can put a link there. Cool. Well, hey, you know what? We should take a break to hear from our sponsors right now, and we're going to go do that right now.
Okay.
We're back. We're back. And so, Matt, it sounds like SEMA was pretty successful. It was busy, I know. And I talked to a lot of people that really enjoyed it, said it was a lot of great displays, a lot of real special things happening there as far as debuts and everything. With that photo gallery, I think we'll see a lot. Was there anything else that just stuck out that you had to mention?
I do, but this is a little bit self-serving.
Okay.
The red car that's now in your in the back of your building.
Yes.
For so long, I've one of the big holdups on getting that Mustang complete was we'd have to make custom supercharger brackets to work with the front engine accessory drive kit. And I've been asking ProCharger for like 5 years. I'm like, can we make a kit? Can we make a kit? Will you guys make something? And I've been reaching out to friends like Chris Brown. We were designing a package and we made a few wood templates. And my first day at SEMA, Tuesday, I was walking toward ProCharger and I saw my buddy over there, Eric Radsons, and he's like waving me over. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's pointing down, and it's finally the small block Ford front engine accessory drive kit with the supercharger. And he's like, it only took us 5 years of you bugging us at every SEMA, PRI, and MPMC event. They did the LS kit like 2 years ago, and they have it. And I was like, great. You've seen my setup. I need to clock the supercharger so the outlet faces down. He's like, it can all be done. It can all be done on this.
That is so ironic that we come out with that now that you don't need it.
Now that I don't,
because you told me when you put the car in my warehouse that I could do what I wanted with it, and I put a Roots supercharged blown big block in it, man.
All right.
Yeah.
But with that hood, it's not bolted down.
Well, it carries
what
enough
hood?
weight
We got rid of the hood.
So I'm gonna just order up one of those ProCharger kits, and I'm gonna send it to Brad, and feel free to install it.
There we go. We'll just install it.
Yeah.
We'll do it at the same time we install the center caps.
Yeah, sweet.
Which, you know what?
Also is going on 5 years.
Let me tell you something, though. It's actually a good thing. The very first thing when the car got put in the warehouse, I went back and I went to put one of the center caps on, and I went, oh, crap. We machine these for what we call our small cap. I would have made the wrong caps. You would have got them. We would have had them powder coated. You would have gone to put them on, and they wouldn't have fit. So now I know I got to do the small caps. That would have been that would have been a bummer because we would have machined them, done everything. So now I know, and I've got those, got them in stock. So we're one step closer. So Hey,
I don't know. I'd say that's 2 steps, Brad. I'd say that's 2 steps closer.
maybe, yeah,
I'll,
you're
I'll give you
probably
a little more
right.
credit on that
I
one.
think you're right. So, okay, we're always talking about these, influencers and people online and like that. And it's getting crazier and crazier because it's all about views, capturing the views because that's how they make their money. And I was excited the other day because a video I put up got 65 views. I was like, yeah,
Nice.
65 views
Good
in
job.
24 hours. Well, there was one that, we're seeing them wreck cars. We're seeing them do all kinds of just ridiculous stuff just to get views. Well, Mr. Beast, who is at this point, what is he, a billionaire off this stuff? I mean, it's like he's making a ton of money. And put up a video that has 163 million views
Oh
already.
God.
Yeah, now it's 167.
167. Okay.
I'm
And
not one of them.
has a Lamborghini and they start. It's 2 yellow poles and they just put up a piece of duct tape, drive the car through it. Then 2 pieces of duct tape. Slowly, then it goes to like a little duct tape wall thick. Well, 25,000 rolls of duct tape later, they kept getting thicker and thicker. And it says that they used 25,000. How much did they spend on duct tape? Duct
Jeez.
tape's not cheap. And
Maybe it was the cheap duct tape.
yeah. And they got to the point where
Dollar
the
store
car,
duct tape.
it ripped the hood off on one of the passes.
Yeah.
Then it ripped like the mirrors off. Till the point where the car is coming at it, stuff's hanging off the car, and it hits the roll of duct tape and bounces off of it. And it's ridiculous. But he must have made a fortune off 167 million views and climbing.
Wow.
And
Enough to buy a Lamborghini and
wreck it.
25,000 rolls of duct tape.
And still
wreck
give
it.
away money.
and still make money. And why? Because guys like us are talking about it. And now you're going to go look at it.
Yeah, and there's another YouTuber who's going to buy that Lamborghini and build it back, put it back together.
Exactly. There you go. Some guy will get it and he'll make it back out of blue duct tape.
Yeah, I was going to say, he'll
And,
tape it back together with duct tape, fiberglass over it. So Matt, let me ask you a question because Brad and I touched on it when on last week's show. We've noticed that SEMA is changing a bit and it's appealing to a younger crowd, which is great. I think 2 years ago was the first year that they had a lot of influencers and they were like ooh and on and wow, this is amazing. And I talked to some who were like, I can't believe like I'm here and like people know who I am. And you hear all these conversations. And last year it was the same way. It seemed to be pretty heavy with influencers. As kind of the new generation of car guys. How did that feel this year? Because from the looks of it, all I saw, not all, but a majority of builds that I saw were YouTube builds, YouTube cars, motor swaps, like all the YouTube stuff that people are doing and a lot of influencers. So
yeah, so that you brought up an interesting point. So there are a bunch of really good, popular YouTubers or influencers, whatever you call them, mostly YouTubers, and are building some pretty cool vehicles. That I think is still yes, that's becoming a bigger part of it because it comes with a bunch of promotion, including a vehicle. However, feedback that I got from a lot of the exhibitors was the past few years had a lot of, let's call them up and coming influencers, not quite there yet, or at least wannabe influencers. And they came in with media passes, certainly trying to get promotion for everything that's there. But it was just a bunch of people coming in and asking for free parts.
What?
And,
no.
and
SEMA?
and not a lot of return because some of them don't have the ability to even do the cars and stuff that they plan on doing. So, yes, a bunch of the well-established, popular YouTubers that are out there, I think, build some cool cars and continue to do well. And are a good return on the investment from partners that are exhibiting there. But I think they scaled back on a lot of the media passes. They were more complex on getting media passes if you were an influencer. That's what I heard from a few people that I spoke to. Tough to gauge. It's such a big event. You can talk to somebody that's like, greatest SEMA ever, and some going, not what it used to be 10 years ago, right? But I understand that they were more strict on when you apply for media passes, you have to have a little bit of a history with SEMA. You have to have podcasts and videos and mentions of SEMA and all of those things. You have to have a real company. You have to show bylines or whatever. And I think a lot of people have snuck in the past couple of years right after COVID with not a lot of legit credentials to get in. And I think they tighten the belt on that.
Interesting. And I apologize. I didn't make a big enough distinction between YouTubers and influencers. You're absolutely right. It's not a merged category. They're quite separate. And I'm sure that YouTubers
there's some overlap though. There's quite a bit of overlap.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. Yeah. But I think a lot of the YouTubers, at least the ones with most of the cars there in booths, are pretty substantial and well within well established in the category. I mean, Matt had a couple cars there. You know, Chris had a bunch of cars there. I mean, a lot of the guys I watched Throttle had a bunch of cars there. I mean, they're all pretty legit. They're doing amazing stuff. But have you noticed that trend? I mean, it is modern hot rodding. Absolutely, undeniably, they're doing motor swaps. They're doing chassis swaps. They're taking new cars and putting old bodies on them. I mean, I love what's going on, but I can't relate to a lot of it. It's getting so excessive. It's like gamers are making gamers cars. Yeah. Did you see a lot of that stuff?
Yes. There seems to be a little bit of a theme. I don't want to say it's a theme with the YouTubers as much as maybe the theme is with the age group.
Right.
You know, big body kits, big flares.
Well, I think that they're leading their age group because they're the influencers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say that
generation.
We saw something, and I'm going to go back to maybe, man, I have a hard time remembering if it was 2000, 2002, 2006, but somewhere in that area where everybody, I'm going to say 2000, where the talk around the industry was, it's really changing, man. It's going to, the tuner market is growing, the tuner market. And there were even product lines like McGuire's had a product line geared just towards the age group like that. And it never really flourished. It kind of went blah, blah, blah. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing a distinct change and a big repositioning of the body styles. It's what you're talking about. We're seeing a lot more Porsches. We're seeing a lot more Hondas and RX-7s and things like that are older, that are now being motor swapped and have, big flares and things. And there's multiple reasons. One is that's what they grew up with. Number two, they're much more affordable. The average guy can't go out and buy a 69 Camaro anymore and do something with it because it's going to cost you so much money. So we've got to remember that. And, if you keep an open mind as far as the enthusiast market and the way people are enjoying the aftermarket, it's what's happening. And, I love the Porsches. And there was, Matt, you probably got to see it in person. I only saw it in photos. There was a white, in that walkthrough area, I believe it was, a white Honda Civic that looked just bitchin', man. It was just really well done. And I don't know if you remember that car, but there was a lot of really cool cars that wouldn't be my first choice as far as if I was going to build my next car. But doesn't mean that's not where we're at. And I think we've also seen already um, good and bad. Matt's
Sure.
favorite cars, the Fox bodies, which used to be the affordable muscle car. And now we've seen prices ratcheting up as more products become available for them. And I think we're going to see that same thing happen with some of these other cars.
Well, it's interesting because the tuner market has just evolved. It's still here. It's just titled differently, and it evolved more into drifting, and it evolved more into that. But you see a lot more of the Japanese cars being customized, and the Euro cars, like you said, a lot of the German cars. I love the movement. It's awesome. I can't relate to some of it, but I'm curious about the build quality because some of this stuff is just so outlandish. It's 3D printed. It's very prototypey, and the build quality doesn't quite look up to standard. But they're show cars.
The build quality, I would say, has increased because a lot of that sort of that import, the sport compact market that you're talking about, those were usually like in South Hall in the wheel and tire booths,
right?
Because it had a lot of like paint
or up in the audio area or something,
right?
Yeah.
And those cars, as they've gotten more complex and better overall, they made them their ways to Central Hall, and they're appearing in like Mother's Polishes booth and like a Holly booth or something. Like you're starting to see them show up with more fanfare and on the competitive landscape of the higher end builds, which has always kind of been Central Hall for that. But they're stepping up.
It's because I think a lot of those guys took cues from the older generation of builders and said, we can integrate this into these builds, the design quality, the build quality, the interior quality. And as more parts are available, we're going to see that.
I certainly hope so. I unfortunately, in conversations and that I've had, things that I watch, a lot of these modern builders don't know they don't even know the Foose name. They don't know a lot of
nothing wrong with that.
Builders. They don't know the Bobby Alloways. They don't know the Pete Chaporas. They don't know the it's kind of interesting that it's like they talk about our history and they get it wrong. Oh yeah, I think it was, and they start bumbling. It's like they aren't those kind of car guys. It's really interesting that they're really learning along the way with what they're doing. So unlike a lot of people that just talk and just are history buffs, these guys are actually trying it, and they're trying it with shitty tools and no knowledge and duplicolor paint and they're just getting at it. They even bring cars that are wrapped. I think Mother's had a couple cars there that were wrapped. They aren't even painted. I mean, it's really changing, and it's hard to accept when you come from a real craftsman background of quality as a very high standard.
Well, when you're snobby like you, I can understand that.
Totally.
No, but what you got to remember, Aaron,
it.
You have to remember something. And I'm not bagging on you, but you haven't been in the hobby as long. And you have to remember that when I went to some of my first SEMAs, 1984, 1985, muscle cars were bolt-on parts on the floor. Everything evolves. And, it's as more parts became available, as people such as Boyd, took that next step and started chopping the body up and doing all the metal work and doing things like that. Others went, whoa, wait, I'd never even thought of that. Then other people take it. And that's where it comes from, where it happens, and how we're going to see this evolution take place. We're already seeing it with the Porsche Speedsters, those outlaw Porsches.
Oh,
those
love
were
the
people that were like, we're never going to touch a Porsche. Then people started doing it, and they were pretty basic at first. Now look at the level that some of these outlaw Porsches are. They're crazy.
Loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Ring Brothers are working on an Aston Martin.
Oh yeah.
An older one, a newer one, what?
I think it's an older one. We couldn't get into it too much. They just told us it's an Aston Martin that honestly I think they would love to debut at the Quail, not at SEMA.
Sure. Yeah, the market. The
I
market
mean, do
for it.
both. But, to your point, Brad and Aaron, is there are a bunch of hot rod builders, names from back in the day that we just don't see at SEMA anymore. I'm sure the shops are still around, but maybe their clientele is just sort of grown out of the SEMA. Brizio, Johnson Hot Rods, like there's
Breezy.
Yep.
even Troy. I mean, Troy had that car there because of the George Poteet thing, but it's been a minute since I've seen a Troy car there.
Well, there's reasons for
debut
that.
there. I mean,
And
they go
part
for
of
the
the
big
reason for
awards and
that
then it shows up.
is a lot of the big shows, to be competitive on their own landscape, have said, for instance, let's take the Barrett-Jackson Cup. It has to be debuted at the Barrett-Jackson Cup.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those builders, you see them later after they've debuted. For instance, Cal Auto, that Buick that's been everywhere. They brought it out for the build-off, and that car's won everything, and now it's at the build-off. But it didn't debut at the build-off, and for those reasons. But, hey, I think we're going to see it evolve. I want to know who's going to build the first $500,000 Fox body Mustang using one of those Roadster Shop chassis. Matt?
Well, I don't have the money, otherwise I would, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon.
Sure.
There's some really, really cool stuff happening with those cars. And look, those 90s eras cars are popping up. You mentioned the Hondas and things like that, but across the board, Porsches, Mustangs.
Well, the G bodies, all those. And why? Because now the parts are available for them. There were years that a Monte Carlo SS or a Grand National Buick, you could not even get a suspension part for them. Now look at the two Grand Nationals that were debuted. The Dutch brothers and the Ring brothers, incredible versions of Grand Nationals.
Yeah.
Well, people's tastes are going to change too. I mean, everybody's doing the Supras and the RX-7s and all these things. And I've seen a couple Starions. We mentioned the Mitsubishi, right? Mitsubishi Starion. I'm starting to see that come to life. So I think people are picking up on those body styles as well, which is like a Fox body kind of vibe, right? I think that they're picking up on that look and that style too, and realizing that Throttle did that nice Fox body, if you remember. I think it was there last year, the blue one, the Sunoco car. But I think the Fox body has a niche that's growing, but I'd love to see the evolution. I'm just curious. It's like you criticize it, or I criticize it, and I go, oh, they're wrapping it. But the reality is patina was a thing. It's like, well, they're not doing shit with it. They're putting
and you've got to
turd.
remember,
it's like
it's a whole nother wave. Wraps have become so incredible what you can do.
Good.
And some of these cars, you say, oh, they're wrapping it. They're taking that car completely apart.
Oh,
if they're doing the wrap right.
Yeah.
And I mean, really doing some.
They're doing all the jams. And
I talked to someone a while ago, and they had like a Rolls Royce wrapped, and they were doing something like, first they did like this metallic wrap, and then they did like a satin clear wrap over it, so the light would pop underneath but be muted on the outside. And I was like, this is getting ridiculous. And they took the car apart. The wrap was $12,000.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah.
In fact, Misha's Defender, the two-door Defender, I got her. I wanted to get that wrapped or PPF'd. I want to get it PPF'd pretty quick, and it was $5,000 from a buddy. And it's
I was going to say
10,000 on a high-end car, easy, 20 grand. Yeah.
You PPF a vehicle and then ceramic coat that, it's $8,000.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a buddy of mine bought a Porsche, and the first thing he did is have it done, windshield, the whole thing, and then had it, and it was $8,000. Yep.
Yeah.
And,
so speaking of windshields, I'm curious about this, because I know the technology in that's gotten a lot better. So part of my distraction early on was, I have my Mini Cooper at Jet Motor in Oregon. I shipped it there after I sold
Jet Motor in his.
I put a Jet Motor in it. No, but Jeremy Thorpe is doing a bunch of work to it, and he tried to call me, and he messaged me and said, your windshield's pitted. I want to put a new windshield in it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the original windshield. It has the SRS, it has the mini badges. It's like it's OEM. And I thought, well, I'd kind of like to keep the OEM one. So my big question was, is the new one better? Because I've put half a dozen windshields in my other Jeep, and they just seem to pit and chip and crack so much quicker because the quality of the glass isn't as good. So the first thing on my head was, Jeremy, have it wrapped too. I want PPF on the windshield because it's a little car and it sits low, and I tend to drive up on people, so I have a little more, because it takes me a little longer to pass them, so I get right up on them and then pass them, and I just get hammered with rock chips. So PPF has come a long way, and it's neat stuff, really neat stuff.
Great. Hey, we had some stuff at the front of the show we got to get to before we run out of time, guys. I told you about the moose on the loose. Well, it happened in Sweden. There was a video that I found on the internet, and it was a BMW restoration shop. And it's starting to get cold, so the guy had his doors open at the restoration shop, and he had 3 freshly restored cars for customers in there. And he was putting his boat away. And he said as he was backing the boat in, a moose wandered in the shop. The video's not pretty. The moose got scared, jumped on the hood of a brand new restoration of an 850i BMW. And I got to say, I expected a lot more damage than the result was. Luckily, nobody got hurt. The moose didn't get hurt. The guy was hiding behind the boat filming it because he was afraid it would get scared and then attack him. Because, as we know, other than Bullwinkle, you don't want to mess with a moose, So,
that 8 Series got pretty worked.
It got really worked, man.
Damn. Those 850s are pretty cool. I still kind of like those. If they're like I wish someone would really take one of those to the next level. They're a good-looking car.
Yes,
I mean, they one of them was a 12-cylinder, and that would be pretty cool. You could do some neat stuff to that.
So, check out that video. And hey, we talked about some of the cars that are going to be discontinued in 2025. And the very first one on the list was something, it was kind of ironic because I was driving to work just a couple days ago, and a guy pulled up alongside me in a Jaguar F-Type Type R. And I remember driving that as a press car and going, man, I really like this car. Then my buddy Barry Weiss got one, and he loved it. And I was like, I should look. You could buy those really, you can get a late model Jaguar Type R, fully loaded, pretty low mileage for around 30 grand. And
so it's funny you say that, Brad. The Vantage has been on my hit list lately, because they're kind of becoming affordable, like 07 to 09. And I was at the Jaguar dealership servicing Misha's Land Rover, and they had a Type R there, and I'm like, that's the same car but better. Like,
they're great. They're great.
I like the Aston. I like the Aston side of it a little better for design, but like you're saying, I could get a newer Type R, a much newer Type R for the same money, and that's a great little car. Like, that's a badass little car.
I enjoyed driving it. You drove one. You had a press car for a while, didn't you? One of those, Matt?
Yeah, I did. And I drove the RS version. I think it was the RS version. They only made like 100 of them. And I drove like 3 or 4 of them. I remember sitting down with Ian Callum, the designer, and I was like, it just worked out this way. I've driven like 4 of these things. He's like, I haven't driven 4 of them.
I've never experienced one. I want to go check one out.
They got a great exhaust note.
Yeah, that they do. I've got a bunch. God, I keep getting phone calls. I got a bunch of them on my saved list in the classifieds. I'd like to check it out.
Well, it's on the list of cars because, as we talked a couple shows back, Jaguar's pretty much eliminating its line and going all electric. The next one on the list, of course, we've talked about Chevy Camaro going bye-bye. Yep. The Nissan GTR. Remember when that GTR came back and you had that press car, UI and Pete went out to lunch, Matt? and we took the GTR press car out, and that was fun. And but going away. But you know what else is going? Toyota Supra. The Toyota Supra.
Sort of. So just to clarify, the Toyota Supra with the 4-cylinder, I think, is going away. But
yeah, the
with
GR 2.0, exactly.
Yeah, the 6-cylinder is sticking around.
What about the Chevy Malibu? What are rental car fleets going to do without the Chevy Malibu?
I honestly didn't think we still had a Chevy Malibu around, but I guess we do.
It's been, it's kind of like a Toyota Corolla. It looks just like a Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, except I'm sure GM wished they had the Corolla sales numbers.
Yeah, no kidding. Subaru Legacy. That's one that you see a lot of on the road. I don't know what they're changing over there, but that one's going away. The Ford Edge, which is a smaller SUV. Now, this one was on the list, and I kind of thought, old news. The Fisker. Yes, we already knew that was going away.
Not by choice.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't just eliminated from the line. Here's a couple for you, Aaron. The Mini Clubman is going away. And the Mini Electric SE. They're getting
electric cars going away. Minis are expensive, man. The Model it's every time I went to the dealership, I'm like, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. They're like, okay, that'll be $4,400. It's like, what? It's like, well, yeah, each time you mention something wrong, we check it, and that's a $300 service.
And that's not to fix it. That's just for the complaint line.
That's just to look at it. Yeah. Yeah. So bye modern Mini.
The Ram 1500 TRX.
Yep.
Gone.
Wow.
Now here's one that's surprising. The Nissan Titan. Because Nissan has opted to forgo the full-size truck market for hybrids and electrics. And that Nissan, that full-size truck market is still so strong. Ford, what would Ford do without that? And Nissan sells a lot of Titans. That really is surprising.
That's a nice truck. Wow.
The Audi A5. You've driven those, Matt.
Yeah.
I like that little hatch that the A5 was for a while, which is oh no, I'm taking the A3. Never mind. Ooh, I saw an RS6 the other day.
Oh, really?
In gray. Ooh. Okay, sorry. Distracted.
And a litany of other ones. There's some Infinities and Volvos and Alfa Romeos and things like that. But every year this happens.
Alfa Romero.
Like, what's that?
No R. There's no R. It's Alfa Romeo.
I call it an Alfa Romero. Okay.
Call it whatever
like
you
George
want.
Romero?
Anyway.
Is it a zombie
It's
car?
gone anyway. It's I didn't say the Alfa Romeo. It's the Alfa Romero that's being just continued.
Sorry, Brad. I can't.
Yeah, had to call me out online. You do stuff all the time, and I don't ever call you out.
Yeah.
So
that's because I have facial hair, Brad. If you had facial hair like
did
mine,
you notice?
You might
lost
mumble
my
and
bet.
stumble too. I know.
I lost
you're all
my
cleaned
bet, and
up.
I had to shave my beard.
I liked you with some scruff, Brad. I thought it looked good.
You know what? It was just time to change it up. I said, you know what? I've had this forever, and so but you know what? It's a lot more work in the morning having to shave my whole face.
Yeah. Well, I have to say
really
the reason why mine.
I know, Matt.
Short
I was thinking of you, Matt. I was thinking Matt has to do it every morning, and but yeah.
Well, mine's
how
short.
long it lasts.
I was trying to trim it up a little bit, and I gouged it, and I was like, shit, and I gouged it really bad, like really deep, so I had to take it all down.
I didn't say anything, and I don't think you noticed, but right
Is that
here,
why you don't have eyebrows?
right here, I was trimming my eyebrows one morning, and I slipped. I kind of went like that, and half my eyebrow was gone for like a month and a half, and my wife told me, she goes, they're not going to grow back. And I go, what do you mean they're not going to grow? They'll grow back. And she goes, no, at a certain age, eyebrows don't grow back. And I said, you're crazy. Then she had me all paranoid because like in 2 days they hadn't grown. I don't see any stubble, man. Oh man, I'm not going to have an eyebrow anymore.
Get them tattooed.
Can you imagine? You see those people in movies where they, put makeup over them or something. people look weird without
Oh,
eyebrows.
I know. Eyebrows.
Who
Eyebrows
used
are like rear pockets in jeans. If they're off a little bit, man, they could really mess up. Really mess up the face, right?
But the good thing is, if we shaved our eyebrows off, we could paint those ones on, like way up here, and we could have lightning bolts. We could have like, hey, Matt, that'd be a great promotion for your next store thing. You could shave your eyebrows off and then write like Bravago. That'd be cool, dude.
Bravago
People
brows.
would remember it. People would remember it.
Oh,
You do it, and if it works out, I'll do Bond Speed eyebrows. Okay.
Okay. Hey, if it works out, I'll post pictures of both you guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, talk your dad into doing Red Rocker. That'd be awesome.
Trust me, Dad's trying to keep his eyebrows as long as he can. Are we going on to the hurricane cars? Are we going to mention that?
Well, I think we covered it. There's a whole bunch of them, all types, and they are. I saw in the photo 67 Camaro, 57 T-Bird, all kinds of new Vets, Ferraris, G-Wagons. They're saying billions and billions of dollars worth of cars and damage on those two. And there's some people that are just going, ooh, because they're going to get those cars. Right. They're going to tear them apart.
Maybe if they get 2 or 3 of them, they can build one. So according to Carfax, that number for 2024 is 347,000 cars. Milton alone is 120,000 vehicles in Florida.
Wow.
And then 138,000 with Helen. Wow.
Okay. Now let's just say if you had let's just use a 69 Mustang that was in a flood, and you had a 2024 Mustang that was in a flood. One's pretty easy to tear apart and rebuild and still save. The other one's pretty much junk. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's called analog. Anything analog is no problem. Burn it. Yeah, if it's not cooked too bad, you can rebuild that too.
Yeah, but you can drain that motor out and you can rebuild it, and you can, the same with the trans and the rear end and everything. But that new Mustang or whatever car it is, you've got all the computers that are fried and things like that. It's like dropping your abacus into a lake versus your computer into a lake. It's one's usable.
Your what, Brad?
Your what? Abacus. You don't use an abacus? Okay. All right. For you, a slide rule. A slide rule.
Wait, is that a band?
Probably.
Is that a
no, it was a Phil Collins song. Remember Abacus?
Yeah.
I guess we got to end on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
We have all showed how old we are on this show. We talk about abacuses, slide rules, and how the old cars at SEMA were so much better than what those new kids, those influencer kids are bringing.
I'd love to tease Brad on Wednesdays.
All right. You love to tease me every day because you know that I'm so young at heart. And without my beard, I just lost 10 years of age.
I know, you look like a baby face.
I know, both you guys.
All right, everybody. Hey, we will be back next week, and that's a promise, not a threat, right here at Shift and Steer. Thanks for listening.